Hey, Savages and sport fans, welcome to the Greg Medford Show. Greg, your host, here without a baseball hat today. We'll see how the glare affects the filming for those of you who are watching this. For everybody else, I just am cluing you in like it's a pretty talky movie. Listen, we've done a whole bunch of politics this season in season 2. We did a lot of politics the second half of season 1. We're going to talk a little politics today. We, our next guest I met at a Jim Lehman event who was running for U.S. Senate, and he was kind of knocked out of the running by Blake Masters and the Trump endorsement this year. And we were standing off to the side, and we ended up chatting a little bit. And then Bobby, my producer, just kind of connected with him, and here he is for the show. He just got a tour through the factory. He's got a really interesting background. He and I have actually, we're almost like kind of weird we're almost like, what do you call it, Othello doppelgangers. Background, you've done a bunch of martial arts, right? So martial arts, and you've done some stand-up comedy, and he's been on a lot more nationally syndicated shows and stuff than I have, of course. I'm here busy, locked in Troll Central making knives. But while I've been locked in Troll Central making knives, he's been off talking to the world. And the world is shifting right now. We just had this this abomination called the what's this inflation? It's the Inflation Reduction Act, which it's the funny thing. It would be like passing a law that's to save children that actually kills children. It's the exact opposite. It's everything Democrats do. It's the opposite of what they're doing. And I just heard yesterday about 20 points through it, and the whole thing sounds like a crazy race agenda bill of some sort of woke madness that's taken over the country. What we're doing right now is what happens to serious countries when they have too much, and there are other hungry people in the world who are willing to step into the breach. We are being silly here in this country, and we're no longer, in my opinion, we're not people to be taken seriously, frankly. Certainly not the national body politic and the direction of our country. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about some local politics. Should be kind of fun. Our guest is Kevin Jackson, not the one that played for the Phoenix Suns.
That's Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson.
But all black people look alike, right,
KJ.
man?
Oh, my God. That was awesome. Because I don't watch NBA at all. So there's got to be another Kevin Jackson.
There was a Kevin Jackson that was a wrestler at Iowa State. He was also a mixed martial artist. I get mixed up with him a lot.
Is he a black guy?
He's a black guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And because he was MMA and I train in MMA, train fighters in MMA, I get mixed up in that. Hey, Kevin, congratulations on the gold medal in the Olympics. I'm like, I'm not the wrestler. I'm not that dude. And he wasn't as good of a martial artist because he transitioned from wrestling to martial arts. So I don't take offense because he was okay. He's a beast.
Isn't there another Jackson? Who's the guy out of New Mexico?
Michael?
No.
He's dead.
No, the guy out of, he's an MMA guy. He's not black dude. But
talking about Holly Holmes' trainer?
I don't know, the one.
Yeah, I don't.
Is he, isn't he?
His name's Jackson.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Anyways.
We're not all kin though, man.
Stop it. Hey, thanks for coming to the show. How you doing today?
No, man, let me tell you what. Super impressive thing you got here. I'm blown away. I really want to have the audience understand. I'm rarely blown away, but I am.
Cool.
You make amazing knives. I'm going to have to get one, but I don't know if I want to wait a freaking 5 years to get it, but I'm going to have to get in line at some point. No, seriously, good stuff. Didn't know you were a devil dog, which, makes you go up in my book quite a bit.
All right.
Because as you know, I worked a lot with the Special Forces training those guys up. So when they get out in the forward-facing areas, they come back alive and with all their fingers.
Tell me what you did martial arts-wise.
4 black belts. Taekwondo, Aikido, Kempo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Which Kempo? Chinese or American?
Chinese Kempo.
Was that Tracy Kempo?
No, I worked out with a guy. He came from China. They ended up expelling him back to the country out of there. His name is Bing, and taught me all about Chi. It was a great experience because I was doing traditional, Japanese. I did a Aikido in Japanese, and I did a Taekwondo Korean. And when I found this guy was a very, I mean, it's artistic and all that, but he taught me about chi. You could try to choke this guy, man. He could just peel your hands right off. No matter how big you were, he just, and he'd take your hands right off of him. So he taught me how to really center my energy. I was already freakishly strong for my size and a good athlete. I ran track in college and all that. So it just, here's what happened. You learn something and you think, oh, that's it. Taekwondo, end all be all. Then somebody goes, oh, you seen Aikido? And they show you a couple things and you're like, whoa, what was that? What'd you do to me?
And how about two things on the opposite end of the spectrum? Which style was it? Chun Kwan or Muda Kwan Taekwondo? Do you remember?
No, what we did, what's called Chunji Kwan. So our first, and it was just based on our first form is Chunji. And then our last form was Basai.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of guys did Muda.
Basai, Yugo,
Yeah,
Toigi.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Chung Kwan.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I was focused on was the reason why I liked it. It was very disciplined. It was, you learned good quality technique, but and we were a fighting school, so we fought every practice, no matter what. After you,
Where did you train?
I trained in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bunch
bunch of guys.
My instructor was from Texas as well. He trained with a guy named Pat Burleson.
I know Pat Burleson. So there's Burleson. There was Roy Curbin. Roy Curbin was the big dude. He was the equivalent of Chuck Norris in our area, but not as well known because he didn't do movies and stuff.
Texas was the fucking bangers club. It was the bangers club of karate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then California was the
was next
with Speedy Pointy.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
And then Arizona's this interesting mix of guys from Texas and California. So it was like kind of like sniper bangers.
No kidding. Yeah, so we had the guys that people know, me, Billy Jackson, Billy or Benny Urquidez. I've been dating myself here. We had Raymond McCallum. We had Tim Kirby. These are all got point fighters that ended up going pro. And then I
worked out with all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's hilarious.
These are the boys. And I mean, Graben is one of my buddies. We all traveled together. So, I mean, it was a lot of guys. And martial arts to me was it's life. It was just part of life.
Yeah, I kind of did it right up until the point in my entire life. I did it until I started making knives. And
no
then this
kidding.
kind of took over.
Well,
because I had a few schools here in town.
Did you really?
Yeah, my first black belt was in Shotokan Karate years ago.
So we had one of my good friends is a 6th Dan in Texas, Shotokan. Yeah.
What's his name?
Oh man, I haven't talked to him in so long I've forgotten.
All right, no worries. So my first black belt was in Shotokan, then I got a black belt in Chun Kwan, and then in Chinese Kempo.
Yep.
And then I got a black belt, multiple degrees in American Kempo, so Ed Parker stuff.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Well, neato. So, and then you got into doing MMA?
Yeah. So my kids were training at a dojo. The guy who was at that dojo got his black belt in Taekwondo under me. And I go in there and they're on the ground wrestling. I said, get my kids up doing all that gay stuff. So he goes, Mr. Jackson, this is jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. So, and keep in mind, this kid is at the time, heavyweight kickboxing in North Texas for Thai fight, Thai.
Thai kickboxer, okay.
I mean, he is one of the toughest kids you'll ever meet. So anyway, he goes, well, come on, let's move around. I'll show you this jiu-jitsu stuff. I said, okay, I'm going to fire at you. Now I'm working. I'm not going to beat him because, in a legitimate, ring fight on the streets, he'd be different. So anyway, I strap up. I get my gear out of the car. I go in there, man. He taps me out the first time in like a minute and the second time in a minute and a half. And I just remember coming to this wild conclusion. Now, he's one of the top fighters in the world. So it didn't bother me as bad as it would have if it's just been like some chump. But it still dawned on me how easy it was. And I thought to myself, as good as I am on my feet, if I'm on the ground, I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And but what I really enjoy and what I'm training for now, I got to get in better shape. I had some health issues, but I'm doing Krav. So I'm a lifelong martial artist. I'm never quitting. I'm looking for the most efficient way to kill. I mean, and not because I'm a mean guy, but because there are a lot of mean people out there, and some of them actually want to get me now.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
A lot of death threats.
All right. So where'd you grow up?
Texas. 25,000 acre cattle ranch in Brady, Texas is where I grew up.
Did you work the ranch?
Worked the ranch. I tell everybody my background is going to at 8 years old, my mother died before I turned 5. My grandparents adopt me and my brother, move us to this ranch where we work for this wealthy white family. And so we learned hard work.
So your grandparents were caretakers on
Caretakers of that
Okay,
property.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were taking care
That's kind of a blessing.
it was a hell
It's
of
a hell of a way to grow up.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
So-
the ranch is spectacular.
We had 2,000 acres of exotic animals. These people came 4 times a year. It was our ranch.
Yeah.
You know, the vehicles my brother and I drove, we shot their when they come, they'd hunt. We take the extra shells, we'd go hunting. You know, it was ours more than it was theirs. And they really treated it that way. So they treated us like family. By the way, rich Republican family that couldn't have a care in the world about our color or whatever. In fact, they sent me to military school, which is where I got my military chops. And 20 grand a year to send my brother and I to this private school, and they paid, yeah, go, we'll pay for it. So they chose it, paid for it. It's Marine Military Academy in Harlingen, Texas. So I spent 4 years there. My brother spent 3. Then I got a scholarship to SMU and
Engineering degree from
engineering,
there.
yep. And then the rest is kind of history from there. But it set the stage. And I tell everybody, you should grow up on a ranch or a farm because you learn what hard work is and where your
Oh,
food
yeah, you
comes
do.
from,
Oh, yeah,
right?
you do.
And you should spend some time in the military. You do those 2 things, you will not ever be indoctrinated to the BS that we go through, you know, that these kids are going through today. Psh, I don't even know who these kids are, man.
Yeah. It's bananas.
Yeah.
So, God, there's so many things to unpack with you. You've also spent a lot of time on radio and TV.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background there.
So what's ironic, you know, degrees in electrical engineering, computer science, and math from SMU, right? And this crazy background. I get out of college. I go to work as a design engineer. I'm designing supercomputers. And somebody comes in and says, you should be in sales. You got a personality for sales. And I'm like, I don't want to do sales, man. You know, and they're like, you make a lot
You
more
make
money.
more money, yeah.
So they convinced me. I tripled my income the first year. I was naturally good at it. I was a tech sales guy. I knew how to sell tech. Did that. I can take you through all these iterations, but I ended up living in China, learned Mandarin. I mean, I was all over the place. So, I loved language and cultures and all that. And as a martial artist, I'd fought in Japan and, you know, throughout Asia. So I was like, man, this is just, you know, my background was so varied. Well, I ended up getting out of engineering, going into management consulting. I was a management consultant to the largest companies in the world. So I'm going all around the world doing that now in a whole different, you know, eyeballs, looking at the world, seeing how America fits in the scheme of things. I come back and I ended up running my own company for a while. You know, I mean, I've been self-employed for quite a while. Long story short, we're going to do a deal in management consulting. They put the deal together and then they pulled the rug on us and gave us a parachute. So I got out of that.
And before you go on, what do you mean management consulting? Tell me what you mean.
So I would go into a company, and a large company. My average company was $23 billion in market cap. Now this was years ago. This is 2006 to 2009, when there were no $1 trillion market cap companies. So the largest company I worked with was $260 billion market cap. It was BP Petroleum, British Petroleum. So I go into that company. They say, we're getting ready to change our infrastructure. We're going to do a $100 million project to go from SAP to JD Edwards in this piece, or in this case, JD Edwards to SAP, whatever. And, you know, we all bid on the project. I'd sell the project and then we go implement it worldwide. So it could be whatever. And that's what management consulting is. And then you look at, the same way I'd evaluate your business, you know, what are your sales? What are you trying to achieve? How big do you want to grow? Blah, blah, blah. And, but large companies. So that's what I did. And let me tell you why that's important. Because when I came into this business of political, whatever, punditry, I looked at it from a management consulting perspective. And here's what I learned. We lose. They call us racist. We lose. We don't know how to fight. They call you and me, you know, we're toxically masculine because we're, you know, males on the other side of the aisle. We lose. We don't know how to fight it. They say we're homophobic. We're xenophobic. And I'm looking at guys, my friends, and I'm going, they're none of that. I grew up with a bunch of corn-fed white boys in Brady, Texas, at FFA and H4H, and, you know, cattlemen and farmers that would fight to the death for me, right? They don't know my color, but these leftist, you know, weenies out of, you know, DC and New York will tell you that guy's a racist. No, he's not. He's nowhere close to being a racist. He's nowhere close to being taught. He treats women with respect. What are you talking about? He's a misogynist. And it just literally would piss me off. I'd watch these people define people that I knew, and I'd go, yeah, y'all are so full of shit. It's not even funny. So that's what made me go, I got to get into this game and change that paradigm, right? I got to change the way they think about my friends. And it really drove me that way. So that became it. And then, of course, you're a black conservative. You're going to catch some shit, because that's just the way it works. And I
feel that way as a black conservative every day.
Well, obviously, I see your racist shirt. But, so it became everything that I did that led me to where losing my mother before I turned 5, my father being in prison and being just a total ass, fighting for everything I wanted and got. Tell me
adversity.
Tell me I can't do something, I did it, right? Tell me you're going to kick my butt, I kicked yours. So, and all these things that led me to this, working hard on a farm, going to military school, and getting this mentality of a winner. And then I get to this and I see nothing but losers. I see people that don't know, they're just nothing but losers. I'm surrounded by them. Mm-hmm. And I go, it's time to somebody get in this game and show people how to win. And that's really it.
So are you thinking about running for office?
I will never run for office.
Okay. So are you associating with people where you're trying to get them to change their narrative, their approach to how they interact? Are you trying to tell me what you're trying to do? Are you trying to infect the Republican Party with redheadedness? I mean, I don't think the Republican Party. Are you trying to change the narrative for Republicans to counter the Marxist narrative that's thrown at us?
There's two things we're trying to do.
What's your goal?
So the first thing is, and I bet you'll resonate with this one, you got to take the sissies in the Republican Party and give them a backbone. There's too many sissies. They're ready to run. I used to think when a fight came from the left, if you called me a racist, I was like, what? I'm ready to step up, and I'm thinking there's thousands of people behind me. The minute they get called racist, they're running. Yeah. Right? I'm not running. Call me whatever you want to call me, because I'm there. I will be there in your face, right? But these chumps are running. So first thing is you have to build the backbone of the conservative movement. Then the second thing is you got to let the other guys know you're willing to stand there and give some ass kickings. And that's what I do. So if you look at my work on Fox, I don't back down. I articulate an argument better than anybody. Justice Thomas said in his office to me, Kevin, there is nobody better than taking a complicated concept and narrowing it down to its essence than you. Never met anybody better. It's what the Justice Clarence Thomas said about me. So that's what I do, because I'm going to take my thing is I'm going to fight you, but you're not going to realize it's a fight, because I will have ripped your heart out before you think. While you're thinking fight, I'm going to rip your heart out.
So tell me how you're doing the fight. I mean, you've got a podcast, right?
Yeah. So I was on Fox News. That was the biggest deal. I got fired because I tweeted that the Kavanaugh accusers were lying skanks, which they are. I stand by that. And then, of course, Fox called me and says, you got to take that back. I'm not taking that jack. I have 4 sons, all boys, by the way.
That's the way sons work, yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
Oh,
that was funny.
Bam!
It took me a second. I don't live in that trans world, so it took me a minute. Like, oh yeah, there are people who think like that.
Little wit lag.
Yeah.
But so anyway, my thing is I raise men, and I'm not going to have them 35 years be at the pinnacle of their career and have some skank say, oh, he touched my breast. Yeah, by accident, or whatever. I mean, we have allowed them to Me Too movement us into, becoming practical eunuchs, to racism us into backing away from whatever your heritage may be. That's ridiculous. We had moved so far away from this stuff, and what we've done is we've allowed a bunch of pansy-ass sissies Republicans to put us back into this position. Look at, here's what I'm finding, because I'm making a sequel to 2,000 Mules. I learned through my contacts and to have undercover video of everybody cheating. I thought it was Democrats cheating. It's Republicans cheating with Democrats to fix the system against Trump and against us, ultimately against us. When are we going to wake up and stop this stuff?
Yeah, the uniparty is the best phrase to come out of the last couple of years.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
So you know what, man? We got to stand up. I'm glad guys like you're not only standing up, you buck up. and do it. You talked about let me tell you what I do. So I looked at, okay, there's politics and pop culture. We're losing everything. The military used to be one of the areas of conservatism. I mean, it has one purpose, right?
Yeah.
Now we're sissifying it. Let's LGBT the damn thing, right? Idiotic, but we're doing it. Capitalism used to be one of those bastions of meritocracy. What are we doing? We're sissifying it. Oh, we got to have all these HR people for the Latinos and the blacks and the gays and the Guatemalan midgets. Everybody wants their own little HR person for their own little special interest BS. Well, how about we just come in and make great knives, right?
You know, I've heard, and you have heard so many people over the last, I don't know, really the last 20 years, they talk about, now they say toxic masculinity, but they've really been chopping away at masculinity.
Absolutely.
Jordan Peterson makes one of the greatest points. You know, he says it's not just white men running the world. He goes, that's only a couple hundred people. It's a very, very micro subset. Other than that, everybody else is pretty damn equal. He's like, you can't just pick 100 really successful people and judge the entire group of people off those 100 folks.
Right.
That's crazy. We've attacked success in this country, and we've made success and connected it to racism, and it's being done at every level. And I'm struggling. Look, everybody wants everyone to have a fair shake. I don't know if I've ever even met a white supremacist. I don't know if I've ever actually even met one.
Well, I'm actually a white supremacist, so you can't say that anymore.
But, you know, I don't know if I've ever met one of these folks. You know, the Democrats seem to be having a fight in public against some 1950s skinhead, Aryan Nation types. They seem to have a dialogue going on with them, but the times have changed. Like, you know, when we were kids, there were KKK rallies around the country. Remember that? And the ACLU used to stick up for them. They would have one in Chicago. They would have them. It was very, very provocative. You never have those anymore. Like, there were still some nutty people like that around. You know, that's very marginalized. That's not a real thing anymore.
Even when I was a kid, it was marginalized. I mean, the amount of racists that openly racist that you run into in any given situation, so minute. We shouldn't be talking about it, but your earlier point is right. Everything's racialized.
And so what's happened, and a couple of things have happened. They've marginalized masculinity. If you want to know what's going wrong with our country, it's a lack of masculinity. I think the problem with our country is a lack of masculine leadership, because masculine leadership is about being willing to get punched in the face for the right thing.
Well,
we don't have anybody willing
man.
to get punched in the face anymore.
Oh, are you kidding? Bunch of pansies.
I mean, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, these guys.
Would you want them fighting for you?
No, they don't even fight for themselves.
Right. Well, I can tell you this. In this room, we need a bottle because the masculinity is oozing. Man, we need to be bottling this up and putting it out there and selling it. Get somebody in here with a bottle.
I think masculinity is what's hurting this country.
Masculinity?
I think the lack of masculinity, the attack on masculinity is what's hurting this country. And I'm not talking about braggadocious macho, not the bullshit part of it.
Yeah.
Because there's the bullshit part of everything. I mean real responsible masculinity that...
So let's really talk. So you said masculinity, lack of it, is what's hurting the country. So
Yeah.
let's translate that for the listeners. Feminism is hurting the country.
For sure.
Right.
Right.
So that's what it's about.
And people say, oh, you're anti-woman. Well, feminism is not actually pro-woman at all. And if you ask women in America, they've been polled repeatedly for the past 70 years, and they reject feminism wholeheartedly.
Right.
Feminism is a crazy idea of a bunch of hostile lesbians from the 1960s.
Yeah.
It's not actually a real thing now.
I call them the hairy underarm crowd. But what's interesting is they got a lot of the ones who started it,
Gloria Steinem and that whole bunch, yeah.
that are now married with men who take care of them. You know, they started a movement that was built on a lie because they're all now married. But going back to what am I doing? You look at politics and pop culture, everything I do addresses the problem. Racism. My brand is ending identity politics. I don't care what you are. I don't care. I could have come in here. You could have been Asian. You could have been black. If you're American and you're doing this, your product is all American. You have built an amazing company, man. I applaud you. And it wouldn't matter what color you were. When I met you, you're a cool cat. End of story. We can hang, right? And that's the way you've picked everybody. And the way that you really endear yourself to people is when you get to know them. Well, we don't even get to know each other because the first thing they do is I'm supposed to see your whiteness and be mad at you. And you're supposed to see my blackness and go, well, he must vote for Obama. And we're supposed to make all these stereotypes, which they claim that they don't automatically do. And they do automatically do that. You know who doesn't automatically do that? We don't.
Right.
We take people for who they are.
You know, it's funny. I've seen this clip of Malcolm X saying the most dangerous thing for a black person in America is a white liberal. I've seen that so many times, and it resonates so hard. And I wonder, you know, Malcolm X wasn't right about everything. Nobody's right about everything, but he was so right about that.
Dude was profound.
Yeah.
And Malcolm is a really interesting study because he came from this ethnocentric black racism. And he came at it honestly because he watched, you know, black people get completely
Jim
treated
Crow awfulness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then and then of course he went through this whole thing with Masons of Islam. But once he got out of that, once he saw through it, and he became his own man, and went back to, you know, being Shabazz. Then that was when they had to get rid of him because that guy was an Obama with the right message, and that's why Malcolm had to die. But I want to make this bigger point here. So everything I attack is what the left have attacked on us. That as a management consultant, I go, I see you're attacking this. So I'll give you an example. Hollywood. So I made a movie, Bleeding Blue. Amazing film. It corrected the police narrative that police are killing black people willy-nilly. They called it an epidemic. And I said in a bunch of TV interviews, if it's an epidemic, why do you Negroes keep naming the same 6 black people getting killed all the time? Name me some new Negroes, right? And nobody can. It's good. Oh, well, it was Michael Brown Jr. and Philando Kist and Eric Garner. Okay, so you've been talking about them for 8 years. Who else? Go. By the way, do you know who got killed yesterday right here in your own city by other black folks? Can you name any of those?
Right.
Yeah, right. Silence. So we made that movie for that. We're making Mules because the left says, we didn't cheat. And I go, yeah, what if I show you undercover video that you did? So that's to get rid of that narrative.
Yeah.
You know, everything we do attacks whatever those lying scumbags say. Because why? Because I'm a fighter. And because I'm not afraid. Kevin, they're going to fire you at Fox. Freaking fire me. See if I care. You can't stop somebody with a message and is the power in which I'm willing to deliver it and the passion in which I'm willing to fight for it. And let me tell you, I used to get death threats once a day for a year. For more than that, for 3 years. And you know what I said to every one of them? Show up and watch who dies.
I've said, you guys know my address. I got the death threats all the time for a long time. You know, a lot of it was just for being a Trump supporter, just because I was his Trump supporter.
Is that not amazing?
And what was crazy is I've been pretty centrist on so many issues because I'm just like so many Americans. I'm pretty centrist on a lot of stuff. But people just thought I was a batshit crazy radical because I was supporting Trump. And I was like, you know, I don't care about his hair and I don't care about his tone and I don't care about his rambling diction or his tweets. I actually like that he talks right to me. I'm cool with it. Like, I'm so glad that he doesn't run everything that he wants to say by some public policy.
Yes.
George Washington University expert. He just says it. I love that he got up at the podium and was just kind of working. He would spitball some ideas. Yeah, maybe we'll get this Space Force going. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to talk to the people about that. You know, like, and then you know, like 8 months later, we have we got a Space Force because you know he's working. He's up there working. You know, like he would sit around a table if you had a working group and you were working ideas. He was just working.
Look, that you gotta love that the honest, you know, right or wrong, you know, and you may not agree with it even, but again, getting to know the psychology of people is very simple. Whoever is your best friend, why? You know him. Oh man, we grew up and we know each other since 3rd grade. Why? The reason why you cried funerals because somebody who knew you intimately died. And you know that's gone. That connection is gone.
Right.
That's why I don't care who it is. Whatever endears you to somebody is the more you know. The more you probably looked me up and said, "Oh, he's a martial artist." You found out the things that made us have commonality. There was probably even some bro thing we felt just from seeing each other. Because people tell me all the time, "Were you military?" No, but I've been around them. You
Well,
can sense it, right?
Okay, so I actually didn't look anything up about you at all. Bobby whispers a few
suck.
things as I
You're
walk
such a
down the hall
racist.
because I'm such an. I mean, I was down there turning stuff on the lathe while you were getting your tour. Bobby's like, all right. He's like, he's got a lot of things in common with you. You guys are like brothers from a different mother. But
Bobby's hipping you.
in an entire room though, there were 400 people there at that Layman event, and you and I we ended up standing next to each other chatting. There was something about maybe your posture or the way you engaged the room with your eyes. Had a familiar feel like from my tribe.
Yeah.
And I what I found during the Trump presidency, because listen, my family, long time South Carolina, Irish, National Slave Registry. I mean, there's on one side of my family, there's this old Southern.
You are forgiven.
There's an old Southern American part on behalf of my family, and my grandfather, who came out of Texas after the Big Dust Bowl, he was a cattleman, and he came here and became a cop.
Ah, okay.
Married a woman here, and they opened the first integrated restaurant in Chandler, Arizona.
Wow.
He was a Democrat. He was pretty ballsy. Loved America. He was a fireman and a cop during World War II. And, a lot of the stains in the language and in the thinking from those times. And I'm the generation that kind of started pumping the brakes on all that as everything became more global and we started to see each other more and be more self-aware, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out of poverty, you're not as self-aware. You're just trying to not be poor.
There's another element to that too, man. Look, it's not just so you take some, corn-fed white boy from Appalachia, and that's all he knows. He knows his tribe, and then he suddenly sees something different. It isn't that he's not racist. It's new, and
Right.
and depending upon what that new is, if in other words, if somebody has never seen a black person and they see one and he's in a suit and he's very articulate or whatever, that's what they go, wow, these black people seem to have suits and they're very articulate. That's what they're going to, but if
Right.
they see a guy who's like, and he's committing a crime or something, they go, man, those black people seem to have a criminal element. So it's what you're exposed to.
Right.
I've changed more hearts and minds of people that had an idea about black folks. And by the way, I ain't trying to change anybody's mind. You meet me, you get to know me. I happen to be black, and I'm proudly black. But I will change your mind about how you may have thought about all other blacks, because you go, I used to think this about black folks, and I met this one guy. And that one guy can have that kind of an impact. And here's the problem. We don't have enough people really exposing that one guy to the people that are out there.
Well, the black community in this country has been on the liberal. It's been locked up in the liberal plantation, really.
It's been locked up on the Democrat plantation,
Yeah.
but we are conservatives.
It's funny at the core, more believing in Jesus.
Yep. Education.
I mean, if you look at, I love listening to Thomas Sowell talks about literacy rates from Emancipation Proclamation up to 1960 amongst African Americans, greater than white Americans. Marriage rates greater than white Americans.
Yeah.
Success rates fantastic. Literacy rates greater than white Americans. And then the beginning of the welfare state.
Yep.
You see the collapse
The
as
Great Society.
the Great Society steals the culture that was suit and education is the freedom and
and the destruction of the family.
yeah. And that all happened almost simultaneously, and everyone wonders what happened.
Yeah, there's no secret to it.
You know what I was going to say, as I was alluding to earlier, I confronted a bunch of stains in my lineage during the Trump presidency as I'm getting called a racist by everybody. And what I found out was, through talking to a couple of my friends who are black, they're like, "Hey, Greg, we don't think you're racist. We think you're kind of a classist." And as it turns out, I started, what I started to notice about myself was You take your average 65-year-old Jewish white lady. I have disdain for her because everything she believes and holds in her little butterfly heart, which may have been good for raising kids, is bad for my country.
Mm-hmm.
And your Nigerian 28-year-old that owns a restaurant in St. Louis, I have so much in common with him.
Mm-hmm.
I found out as I was listening, and it was Trump putting the Guatemalan automotive repair guy up whose shop got shut down because of COVID, and a Nigerian immigrant, and these folks that don't look anything like me that barely speak English. And I go, oh, they sound like my grandfather, the Greek immigrant. And I found I had more in I found what I really like and what I'm prejudiced against people that aren't into personal accountability. It didn't matter what color.
I don't think that's
anybody
class,
has.
though, man. I think you're a culturist.
It's
You
a
know?
little bit of it's a little bit of
Well,
both.
no,
like
you-
I like
you-
people who struggle for success. I like people who
But,
really
but
work.
classes is somebody like there's the elites, right? That snub their noses at everything.
You
and
know,
they're-
you may be right. You may be onto something.
yeah.
Maybe
and
that
then
I,
there's people that are low class. They're just, you don't want to hang. You probably don't want to hang with either one of them.
probably not.
Right. but it's really a culture. There's a culture that you gravitate to. Somebody that, worked hard, appreciates what they have. It doesn't matter. You could come from high class, but there are people even at the high class. These are the real the guys here you don't want to mess with, because these are the guys that come from elites families, but they still want to work. Like and I don't know, like an Elon Musk, but I don't know what his back. Trump's a good example. Trump came from money. But he worked. He still wanted to work. That's the guy you got to worry about outdoing you, because normally
Right.
the way class changes is the kid like
It's
me
one or the other.
that grows up poor. He says, "I'll outwork that rich boy, and then I'll get there." And then his kids, trust me, in 2 generations, 3 generations, it's flipped.
Yeah, it's there's a escalator going on. Yeah. But when you got both, that's a winning combo.
That's the winning combo. So you look at a guy like Musk, who I don't know his background, but I don't think he came from poverty. But this is a guy that dreamed, man, and I can't imagine what's next in his brain.
Right.
So, look, guys like us are not concerned about. I don't care how much money you make. It's what are you? I'll put it this way: I didn't know very much about you before I got here, but the respect level went high. Why? Because I walk in here and I go, "Holy crap! You have built an amazing company." And then I find out you're a damn Marine, and you're paying homage to the service, which is, you got me right there, because I know what these guys went through for my freedom. So, and I went to the Marine Military Academy and trained Special Forces guys, so I know what this is all about. Yeah, so why do we gravitate? Because ultimately we go, oh, we got that in common, and that in common, and that we have martial arts in common. We got this in common.
Yeah.
And so that's culture.
Yeah. So I might be a culturalist, a culturalist. But it's been interesting to see, when your simple things are when you're younger, things are in simpler terms.
Yeah.
And as you get more mature, or as you get more wisdom, as time goes by, you start to, hey, why do I think that way? Where is that coming from? What do I have? I'm prejudiced against ghettoishness.
Oh, I hate it.
But I don't care about color.
But you don't care about ghetto, whether it's black. I don't like white. I don't like wiggers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're one of these dudes that's gonna walk up on me and Eminem me,
Okay, I gotta tell you a funny story. So I go into I went to a friend of mine's brother was having a gallery opening, and we go to the gallery opening, and it's a NFT gallery, so it's like the first one in the country, right? So I go into this NFT gallery. It's a really hip crowd, and when I get there, there's like some of Snoop Dogg's people are there. It's a super hip crowd, and there is a cloud of weed in the air. You know what I mean? There is a layer of 420 at eye level. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like total square, I'm like, and then there is a complete straight up wigger rapping to the crowd.
Oh, no
and I
kid-
was like, this is so bizarre. It was a half black crowd with this skinny white rapper, and he wasn't really very good.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what's fucking weird time warp am I standing in right now? It's bizarre. It's funny. I guess my point talking about the whole thing that happened during Trump, where people were being irrationally called racists just because of the support of a political figure who I didn't see any racist thing with
There's
him at
not
all,
any,
quite frankly. you, you start to do all this self-examination. I guess maybe the last 6 years, there's been a ton of self-examination. Like, why do I think the way I do?
Really?
Why do I
You
talk
did
the way I
that?
do? Yeah, of course. I mean, is this heaping critique towards me? Does it have merit? And, let me be introspective about it. And I just said, God, I learned so much about myself, and it didn't really have anything to do with race at all at any point.
Well, there's a part of me I'm always glad when people look at themselves, but there's another part of me that says that you know who you are. I mean, I'm always looking at myself, right? Because there's this self-awareness, but there's not anything the left's going to tell me that's going to rock my world. Like, Kevin, you haven't known all this time that you're homophobic. And I go, well, first of all, phobic means I'm afraid of gays, and I'm certainly not afraid of them. That's where my mind would work.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of them. Now, if you're saying that I have something against them, okay, so let's go there. So let's say that I do not like the gay lifestyle, and I look at a homosexual couple and I go, that's weird to me. I can only believe that you have to call them heterophobic because they look at my lifestyle and it's weird to them.
Right.
So you're not going to make my guilt any worse than them. Just because I like women and this dude likes another dude and he finds what I do freaky and I find what he does freaky, okay, cool. We're both a bunch of freaks in each other's ideas. But at the end of the day, I don't care what he does.
What's crazy about it is I know anybody in cursory fashion would listen to me and think that I'm homophobic. And I honestly couldn't care less about any of that stuff.
I think that's most of us, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've noticed. Like, now you get over a certain age, like guys 75 plus.
It was a different world.
They come from a different time, and they've got they're magma solidified in a different polarity of the universe. Now I'm like, oh man, I don't care at all. I really just don't want them to raise my taxes and make my gas really expensive.
I just don't want you to think you're special because you're gay. I do a joke when we have the Unapologetically American Comedy Tour. And I do a joke about the not gay men, the NGMW. And I said the only way we're going to fight the LGBT is we have to have initials. So we have the NGMW, the not gay man, woman. And I go, and we can also take the Q because people can be questioning no matter what. So we'll take the Q or queer, if you want to think of it as queer. It's questioning, but queer. So there's some very queer people that are heterosexuals.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I said, and then I'm going to fight them over the T's because the trannies, when they go one direction or the other, if you become a woman, but you want to date men, well, maybe you should be part of the NGMWQT versus the other guy. So I'm going to do a lawsuit again. So it's a whole routine over this thing. And then I ask people, you, sir, are you a member of the NGMW? And I go, well, no. And I go, well, why not? You appear to be heterosexual. You appear to be not gay. Are you not gay, sir? Do you have any children? Yeah. Is this your wife? Then I want to out this man right now. He's not gay. And I go, be proud. Because you remember the time it was, oh, I'm so proud. So-and-so just came out and they won Will and Grace. Seriously? And so they're coming out, and I'm so proud of them. And one of them was this guy, Jason Collins. He comes out. Obama sends him this thing. Oh, I'm so proud of you for coming out. Get this. Guy is dating a chick for 2 years. Fiance. Makes her think he's going to marry her. And then he comes out as gay. They say he's the first gay basketball player, which he wasn't. Brittany Griner was, but we don't count the WNBA. So there you are, sexist, right? But he congratulates this guy for coming out after he dupes this woman for 2 years, making her think he's going to marry her. Now, I don't call that pride. I don't call that, ooh, you're so brave. I call that a coward. Because he should have known what he was and said, yeah, I'm gay, and not dated this chick for 2 years. But so my routine was based on, I guess if you can be proud for be duping people, I'm going to be proud to be not gay. So that's what I like. Like I said, I want to challenge conviction. You tell me, oh, this actress just came out. Who in Hollywood isn't making, when you come out in Hollywood, they roll out the red carpet for you, for God's sake. That's not tough anymore. Now, in the 1950s, if you came out, maybe you deserved a trophy.
Sure.
But you don't deserve a trophy today because I'm gay. I just want to announce I'm bi. Well, bye-bye.
The country's changed a whole bunch, and the line has moved a bunch, and people jump across old barriers, and I'm unimpressed by it now. My thing is the most inclusive people that have ever existed in all of human existence are the normal white heterosexual male in this country.
Yeah.
There has never been a more inclusive group. Was the club closed for some time? Yeah, it was. But look who's in the club now. Everybody.
Yeah.
Who's the least inclusive? LGBTQ crowd. They're the least inclusive people on planet Earth.
Yep.
If you're not their way, their time, their day, you're against them.
I'll tell you who's
And it's
catching up, though.
bizarre.
Who's catching up is black folks. When I was a kid growing up,
Catching
man,
up how?
catching up and being non-inclusive. When I was a kid, I was raised by my grandparents, and they would talk about white folks, you know, but if a white person needed help, they'd stop. You know, and one time we picked up this hitchhiker kid. Guy, he's probably 23 or so. My brother and I were probably 12 and 13. And we pick him up because he's got a gas can. His truck broke down. It was his 18-wheeler. So we're going to San Antonio. We pick this guy up, and he jumps in the back seat, and he's real talkative. And he's like, yeah, truck broke down, you know, just decided to be a trucker, you know, because I was doing this menial job, and I was making, you know, $8 an hour or whatever, and then they were paying X amount per year. I remember him saying, like, he was making $4 an hour, and these guys were paying $21,000 a year. So I was like, I'm gonna take that $21,000 a year, and we, you know, he with him for 7 minutes till we got him to the gas station, and we dropped him off. And as soon as he gets out of the car, my grandmother says, she looked in the back seat, did you hear him talk about his job? And we were like, well, yeah. She says, he didn't talk about hours. He talked about what he made per year. And she started lecturing us about how this guy
His
thought
mindset.
differently than the way we're taught to think. So, but first of all, we stop and pick up a white dude.
Right.
And then she tells us the lesson of the white guy. Now, people don't tell you that. They want you to think that all black people, number one, would have just driven right by him, and number two, wouldn't have given a care in the world, would have said, disregard what he said. No, my grandparents picked him up and told us a lesson from him. So to your point, yeah, there's a white guy that doesn't even realize how in that one moment, he imprinted on us. And let me tell you, as God is my witness, I never forgot that lesson. When I'd hear people talk about their salary per hour, I go, what's that per year?
Yeah.
And I go, are you salaried or non-salaried? You know, because I already had the mindset that I didn't want to have a job where you broke it down an hour.
Right.
I wanted to. You make $47,000 a year? Now it's still got an hourly rate tied to it, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And that little moment, that little glimmer, is the way people learn, and how the black culture can learn. But so going back to the racism, we'd pick you up, we'd learn the lesson. And then my grandmother called them patties and crackers and what have you when she was mad, but her best friend was a white woman. Now, I'm noticing all these different things.
I know, and I heard this stuff going on
Right?
too, and the language on the other side of the barrier. And I'm like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah, but there are people that will call a black man, you know, by the N-word, right? But then will tell you, but old Charles, man, you can count on Charles, and he'll be a black guy. There's even the dichotomy between what somebody says about this group, but they go, but that Kevin or that Billy or that Ray, you know, there's always an exception.
Well, that used to be such a good word to define bad behavior.
It used to be.
And I had heard that, like, when I was in the Marine Corps, most of the guys were black. And you know, when I went through boot camp, most of the guys were black. Now you get in the infantry, most of the guys were white.
Yeah.
But when I was going through boot camp, I had never lived with 3/4 black guys before. I was like, oh my God. Well, the guys totally liked me because I just said what was ever on my mind,
Right.
and I didn't speak like a Northeasterner. They were always very skeptical of Northeasterners. I was a Westerner, so I would just kind of say what's up. And they're like, all right, you can come with us, you know. But it you know, there used to be these, you can't use these words anymore. I mean, even you say the N-word.
No, I if it weren't for, I don't know who's gonna hear this, but
Yeah, well,
don't give me this, 'cause I'll say it.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
You want me to say it?
No, you're Richard Pryor.
I'll say it right now.
No, but you know what's happened is that word it's defining in reverse to everybody who says it now. Instead of, I mean, I was explained to this by an old black guy when I was a kid. He's like, oh no, there's those types and then there's black folk.
Yeah.
And
Well, Chris Rock says it.
yeah.
He
And,
says there's black people, and then there's niggas.
and I'm sitting there listening. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense to me. Like, those guys standing around the 55-gallon drum who just broke into that place and they're doing drugs right now.
Yeah.
Those are one kind.
Right.
And then those guys over there working, they're another kind. I was like, okay, fair enough. I didn't actually think it was like,
Well, taking your metaphor a little farther, the people the Sharptons, the Jacksons, the D. Ray McKessons, those guys, those are the niggas, right? Those are the guys that we look at and I look at and go, you're a troublemaker. Now, they're not breaking into places or whatever, but they are minimizing us. They're infantilizing us, the black community.
I think they're the worst racist against black people in the country.
They are, and they don't think that. But going so they.
I'm going to take care of you because you can't take care of yourself. I'm going to speak for you because you can't speak for yourself.
But understand, that's the guy with his hand up his butt, the puppet master, who is that white leftist who really is the worst racist on the planet.
Yeah.
That's the guy that says, Kevin, somebody needs to help you. Government needs to help you.
You can't get your driver's license.
Of course
vote.
not.
The voting laws are
No,
crazy.
of course not.
Yeah.
No, I had to get dropped off by a white dude just to come do this interview. Can't drive over here.
Oh, you got a white driver?
Thank God
Nice.
for Uber. Yeah. He's Indian. His name is Uber.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's kind of bizarre. Everything with the left seems to be some topsy-turvy upside down land. It's all the opposite of what they say. They're literally colluding with China and with Ukraine and with Russia, and they're accusing the opposite of doing it.
Yeah.
Everything that they accuse everyone of being racist while they're actually being racist.
Blatantly in your face racist.
What is environmental equity? I mean, if you look at the amount of money that went towards environmental equity in this bill that got passed a few days ago, it's billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah,
and it doesn't make any sense.
On something that's just a made-up term, because when they want to jack with the lexicon, they just make something up and people go, what is environmental equity? I don't know, but we're spending $47 billion on it. Well, it must be something. Okay, well, let's just all move along. No, tell me what that's supposed to. Now, guess what? All the conversation, I don't know if you've heard the latest mashup or supercut where all these lefties are going, but it's an Inflation Reduction Act, but it really doesn't appear to be doing anything to reduce inflation. It seems like it's misnamed. It seems like they put the name on it to make it feel like it. And so all these supercuts of these pundits saying what we already knew.
Right.
Joe Biden doesn't care about inflation, and he has no solution for it.
And he doesn't even know where he lives.
Of course
right
not,
now.
man.
So it's the Politburo of kids and Ron Klain and the youngsters around him.
It's 35-year-olds writing these policies,
Yeah.
But here, let's take this to another level. So we're both Trump supporters in the sense of I like his policies.
Yeah.
And I was with Trump a month and a half ago. Funny deal. He's like, Kevin, get up here and get this picture. You know, we had a good time together. So I know the man. But here's what's interesting to me. So we have and this has to do with Liz Cheney getting her butt kicked. So Liz Cheney gets her butt kicked 2-1. She won 73% last time. She gets her butt kicked 2-1.
Biggest loss in the last 100 years in the Senate.
Everybody's watching Wyoming, this little bitty state with a House of Rep that really should be meaningless, right?
Yeah.
She should be meaningless.
Right.
But we're all watching it. And they're watching it for one reason, because they want to see if it's a repudiation of Trump or her. One of the. Well,
Right.
we got the answer.
Yeah.
Now, leading up to this, what are they telling us? Trump, people have got Trump fatigue. DeSantis can beat Trump.
They're trying to tell us this stuff. It's all bullshit.
It's complete bullshit. So Trump, yet again, proves you're full of shit. I'll show you in this race, and he's done. There's 10 people that went after him. 4 of them are gone, politically dead. 4 quit because they were politically dead,
Yeah.
and there's 2 left with the heads that Trump's waiting to. He's got the spots in his trophy room.
I think he is playing chess right now. He is like, make sure I've got. Oh, Bobby, what's going on?
You hit the you unplugged it.
Wow, what are the odds of that? There's 2 buttons, one on each side. I hit the wire on the bottom. They both popped out.
And he blames Bobby.
I was like, Bobby, what's going
Bobby, what'd you do?
on? It's pretty amazing. I think he's playing this chess game. You know, he hasn't announced yet because I think it gives him a little freedom. It also lets him toy with everybody. But he's making sure he's got a House and a Senate that are conservative before he goes in. I think he's like, I'll do another run if I don't have to deal with impeachments. If I have to deal with impeachments, I'm not going.
Oh man, I don't think Trump. I mean, I'm going to disagree. I don't think Trump cares about any of the issues that are. Trump wants back in, and this time he will come in. He's going to come in with like a wrecking ball.
Okay, so let's talk for a second because you were at the thing up in Prescott, right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't go to his rally, no.
Have you watched any of his rallies lately? He looked a little. I wasn't sure if he was looking a little low energy or if he's just like, hey, it's chill time right now. I don't need it. Like, what do you think's up? Do you think he's got as much? How does he seem personally?
So I saw him at Mar-a-Lago, and I thought the same thing. I was like, man, he looks a little worn. Now, keep in mind, this dude's approaching 80.
Right.
Now, he's been looking like he's in his 50s. And Trump is the only president that didn't look like he aged 15, 20 years but when he got out.
Yeah.
But I think there's a part of him that's tired, but he gets energized at the thought of what they did. Here's what I'll tell you. They asked Trump, what's the one thing that you weren't planning on when this is like 6 months in. And he says, I didn't think that they would continue to come at me as hard. And I'm paraphrasing, but essentially I didn't think that it would be this much vitriol. And I remember looking at him going, well, now you know. Because what Trump was saying is, if I do my job, they'll like me. Because most people do.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. Well, this time, when he gets back in, I think he knows there is no way to win him over. You saw what the swamp did to you. Watch what the FBI did.
Fuck you guys.
I'm about to put some elephant ding ding in you, man.
Oh, I think like the FBI thing is just blowing my mind right now. Them doubling the size of the IRS. That's freaking me out a little bit. I'm like, what is going on here? And our government's already the largest. We have more employees in the federal government than there are citizens in about 100 countries. More federal employees. I mean, it's broken. That's wrong. They're not making stuff. They're taking stuff.
Again, I put on a management consulting hat, and I look at the redundancy. When Trump came in, he looked at the different departments that do the same damn thing. And you could clean this thing up so fast. What we have is an organism that is set on auto feed, and it gets bigger and bigger. It's almost like it's an AI it becomes sentient that says, I must find things.
Did you ever see The Fifth Element?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You remember they were encountering that mass and they would shoot missiles at it and it would grow
bigger. Right.
This is what it feels like to me.
Well, because that's what it is.
So my only question is, and I'll ask you this: do you think is there any way to get it back?
Yeah.
Or is it just going to have to be a revolution and we kind of start again, America Part 2?
Well, so my short answer is yes, you can get it back. But after learning what I learned and how they cheated, and I'm going to encourage people to see beyond the mules because we show you what they did. If I hadn't seen that, I would have thought easy to get it back. Now that I've seen how they coordinated and orchestrated and combined in the uniparty to do what they did.
Yeah.
And the reason why they had to get Trump got between them and their money.
Right.
Donald Trump
He was pumping the brakes on
was
the gravy
saying,
train.
"Whoa, man, whoa, you all these trade deals, and that's
And he is us.
he's us. He represents us. He's the guy that's willing to jump in front and take that bullet.
I've never seen anything like it my whole
There
life.
has been nothing like it. Not in modern times.
I get, people say, how could you be emotional about Trump? The idea of somebody actually fighting for us, for real.
Well, and see, think about your background, my background. I mean, I don't know. I sense this is the same as you. I'm the guy. A dude hits a girl. I'm up. I'm the guy that go. I mean, whatever it is. If somebody's messing, I was in a bar one time. This dude accidentally spilled a drink on a guy. He's a mousy little dude, big Italian guy. Grabs him by the throat.
Oh, it's got to be an Italian. This is like a Rocky episode.
He wasn't a big Italian dude. He's a big lefty, man. And he had his arm he was getting ready to punch this kid's lights out. And I saw this thing developing, and I'm waiting on friends. I go over. He's getting ready. He's got his left arm getting ready to punch, and all I did was squeeze him right here, and it stopped him. He did like that, and he looked back. And when he looked back, I was 6 feet from him. I tapped him, and I was 6 feet back, looking at him with the stare of, "Don't try that with me." And this kid was like ready to pee his pants. And anyway, they kicked the kid out. And I talked to the owner of the bar. I'm like, that's the guy you should have kicked out. And they're looking at me. There's 4 of them at the table. And I mouthed to him, it won't go your way. But the point I'm making is I've always been that guy that says I'm going to stand up for the guy that gets wronged or the girl that gets wronged. And it's in us. It is bred in us, man. I don't know what it was.
I think I just like to fight, and it gave me an excuse because my dad told me I won't get in trouble if I'm sticking up for somebody when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I was just telling a friend the other day there was this bar in town that had burned down since, and you know it was they were telling me about an incident they saw a woman being hit. I said, yeah, I saw a gal get slapped by a dude, and it was like a full on. Like slap across the face,
Wow.
and she went down like at an angle and had to steady yourself. Well, I came across the pool table with the ball in my hand, hit this guy in the face, and his hand hadn't even finished falling through yet. I mean, I was already like flying through the air, but I was like, seemed totally reasonable at the time.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it wasn't the best move. And then the crazy part was she was on top of me punching me in the head afterwards. I was like, all right, maybe I.
Yep, I've had that happen too.
That damsel didn't need rescuing.
It doesn't always work.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, and I know this is gonna sound really crazy, and it's not because you're here, you're black. I'm wearing this racist shirt, and I've been called a racist so many times. If you see Martin Luther King and the people who are around him and the looks on their faces, like he's speaking for us, somebody's speaking for us.
Yeah.
I have that kind of feel, not about color, just about
When Trump speaks, you mean?
yeah, he's sticking up for Americans, all of us, no matter what color we are, out here just trying to work and hold on to our money so that we can raise our kids' station in life and just make the world a better place. It seems like at every world, the I know better than you people are taking all of our money and squandering it.
Yeah, of course they are.
And he's the only guy I've ever had. I felt like he stuck up for me in my business, in my personal, in every way.
Yeah, well, it's probably because he is. Like I said, the closest one that we point back to is Reagan. And I can tell you this. I said this on my show the other day. I said Reagan could not have withstood what Trump has withstood.
No.
I mean, as good as he is, he couldn't. And they would have gotten to him. And I said Trump was the right guy for the right time. And here's what bugs me. What bugs me is you have a guy that will do that. And I have people call me, talk to me, text me, tweet me, whatever. And they say, oh, man, I don't know about Trump. And I mean, I will admit, it seems like there's always something, blah, blah, and they're going on and on. And I say to myself, so you have a warrior who came in, said, against all odds, because the cheat was in 2016.
Yeah.
He wins. He tells Obama, I'll save Kerry. Obama's like, hey, what's he going to do? Wave a magic wand? And Trump goes, yeah, boom, Carrier saved. Then he brings manufacturing back that Obama says was get used to the new normal. We're not going to be able to do this. He does it. Then he gives all this money back, taking all the bureaucracy out of, nonsense. And so people start getting companies give raises beyond minimum wage, well beyond. They give money back. They were getting bonuses and stuff because of Trump.
Yeah.
Unemployment dips. Consumer
Korea calms down.
Korea, we at the parallel.
Iran calms
These two
down.
go here. Iran calms down. China gets in check. Russia's in check. I mean, you couldn't. Terrorism pretty much stops. I mean, in America, everything you could ask for, this guy gives you. And we have people in our party that go, well, I think we need somebody new. Meanwhile, on the left, they have a demented guy that's had 3 brain surgeries. He's got a history of it. His son died from brain, cancer. His other son is a crackhead who runs the family's crooked enterprise and gives 10% to the big guy. He's got a narcissistic wife who just all she cares about is I'm the first lady. He's taking showers with his daughter, and they still want him. We should be kicked in the ass for anybody that says I don't want Trump should get a fucking
a punch in the face.
Absolutely.
I know. I feel it all the time. I'm like, okay, where can I stack your butt?
I mean, can you put a more
stark
contrast between and we're ready to give our guy up. Well, let's try DeSantis. Look, I love Ron DeSantis. I was with Ron.
Next time.
Look, make Ron a VP. Let him see the ugliness of what goes on. Then give him 2 terms as president and watch what he does.
Right. Sounds good. But I don't want to get rid of. I love Orange Man with great hair.
Hey, man, I'm there.
I love him.
But I want to be very clear. It's not I'm in love with no man. I'm in love with the
Homophobe. I'm totally in love with
touche.
that, man.
Touche. Now, look, here's my thing. It's like if somebody to say, man, what do I think about you? I would say that dude and I, we get along. It's not a love. It's not a love.
I know what you mean.
For you per se, right? It's a love of what you represent to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And so that's what Trump. I was hanging with Trump. He get up here, Kevin, get a picture. Get a picture. Kevin, get a picture. But we're buddies. But it's what he does that resonates with me, right?
I'll tell you, I miss watching him work. He was so much fun.
You're a groupie, man.
I miss
You're a total groupie.
I miss the press conferences. I mean, I just love. No, I'm not going to do that. No, what kind of stupid question you
You're
gonna ask
fake
me?
news.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Question from fake news.
Go ahead with your phony question. No. Clearly, I'm the smartest guy in the room. I mean, just to say something like that is awesome. Yeah, I loved him. I miss him. I want him back soon.
Oh,
Well,
man.
listen, I've got my fingers crossed. I've got my fingers crossed that he makes it through the next 2 years and he's still solid and ready to kick it.
I think he will. I think Trump's been sent here by God, man. I really do. And he got cheated. I know he got cheated. My movie will prove that. But
When's your movie come out?
trying to get it out in the before the midterms. I got my first funding for it. It's not enough, but we got another fundraiser coming up here locally that should give me the money to finish it. I hope it does. If they give me that, I'll finish it before the midterms, and we'll.
How much money do you need?
It's probably another 150.
Oh, it's not much.
No.
And then are you doing that like through a movie studio or?
I have
how
a
you
studio.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing all the editing and production of it?
We do everything. Yeah,
All right.
we make movies. That's what I was going to tell you. So when you ask me what I do, I'm attacking Hollywood. Why? Because when I put my movie out, the distributors didn't want to take it. Hollywood said, you take him, you lose us. The theaters didn't want to take it. Had theater owners tell me, I don't like what you put in there. What? The truth? So I said, okay, I'll go around you. So I put it up on its own site, but then I built the Flick Fest. And I said, I'm going to go out, any conservatives making films, bring them here. Now, it's not a conservative site. It's a site for great movies. And all the films that are on there are festival winners, and mostly shorts. But I wanted a venue where the Kevin Sorbo, who's one of my partners, by the way, has a place to go and doesn't have to worry about not making a living. We can build a Hollywood better than Hollywood and not even miss them. I guarantee you, we could do it. People don't know this. When Adele dropped her record, the last song she did, it was big. Everybody's waiting on it. Eminem was dropping one at the same time. It was a white pro-Trump rapper who outsold every one of them. The day they dropped Adele, this dude outsold her. People don't even know who he is. We have so much talent and ingenuity and stick-to-itness and persistence of the left. There's nothing we can't attack that they do that we can't put them out of business if we just put our minds to it. The number one dollar in the world is a conservative American dollar, period. How many things do you do because you say, you know what? I like the guy. I have people go on my film site and they go, Kevin, I don't even watch movies. I'm one of your guys. I don't even watch movies. Take my money. They're not trying to cheat, figure out how to get 14 people to watch for the same amount of money. That's what leftists do. Conservatives will come to your thing and say, if I never watch a movie, take my $5 a month. No problem. That's who we are. So there's nothing if we put our minds to it and we want to we could get it from any of them. Boy, that is better when you get up close like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Get all
very,
very
very
white.
white, sexy.
Hey, baby, how you doing? It's Kevin. It's a whole new voice.
Yeah, you got that. Who's the comedian? You got when
Kevin Hart?
Yeah, your
Kevin-
voice goes up. And
Let me, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? So I recorded a show, and one of my buddies called me up. He said, dude, he goes, are you listening to your show? It was on terrestrial radio. I go, why? He goes, you sound like Kevin Hart. I was shut up. He goes, segment whatever. He knows my radio show. So I went and listened to it. It was exactly like Kevin Hart. If you take my voice and you speed it up about 0.2, it's Kevin Hart.
That's hilarious.
It'd be like, yeah, man. And so we were talking about so-and-so, and brother said to me, now listen, what we gonna do when I'm working with Rock? I was in that movie.
I mean, it blew my mind. Honest to God, you speed me up. Point two.
I know. I was sitting there going, God, I don't want to say the wrong name and have one of those moments. Okay, so is that kind of your big thing right now? Is movie and film production?
No, so my big thing is I've got a event coming up in the spring called No Whites Allowed, and it's a whole racism of the left, the Democrat and the left through the decades, and how the eugenicist movement, unions. In other words, I'm going to show you the blatant racism of leftism, and I'm calling it No Whites Allowed. And it was in response to this white guilt thing they do every year up in Wisconsin, where a bunch of guilty white people pay $500 to go, oh, I'm so sorry for being white. You know, it's insane.
Fucking bananas.
It's bananas. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to get white people to pay $300 to come understand you ain't that racist. But it's great, folks. Congressman Burgess Owens, Senator Tim Scott, Ben Carson, Brandon, you guys know, it's heavyweights, and also Victor Davis Hanson. So it's white folks too, but I wanted black panelists.
It's white folks too.
That
was awesome.
Right, we got a couple of white people just to make sure people know that you can show up.
No tokens.
Right, we got some tokens. No, but what I wanted was mostly black panelists talking about these issues from a black
I
perspective.
thought you were going to say Panthers for a minute there. You said panelists. I said, okay, all right. Mostly black panelists. And you're gonna have Victor David Hanson on there. So you round? It's a like a dinner. Everyone shows up, and then it's
a symposium. It's 2 days.
Yeah.
And we'll do right now the plan is we'll do 15 to 20 minutes on a topic like feminism. And so somebody will just set the stage on feminism. Then we'll have a deep dive with blacks, women, and men who can, and whoever, it could be a white panelist too, but it'll be people that are explaining how feminism killed the black culture. We'll do something on unions, and we'll talk about that. We'll do something on abortion, and we'll talk about that. So there's all these topics that people have no idea. There's a ton of stuff that it's all over politics, and you don't see it. Most people don't. Mean we do.
There's an iceberg below the surface of America, and the iceberg is that when you poll black Americans, white Americans, and almost everybody, when you poll them on principles, we poll very conservative and very similarly. Mm-hmm. When you poll us on politics, we're in the opposite corners of the building.
Right.
But when you poll us on how we're wired, and that's the trick, I think, for the modern conservative, is to cut through the surface of the water and get to the iceberg that's floating in the room. In a room full of Democrats, if you strip away talking about policy and you ask them about their children, fairness in grades, how people should be treated, they answer questions very similarly to conservatives.
Well, I'll even go a step further. If you take a Democrat away from other Democrats and they just tell them to answer honestly, they're conservatives.
Yeah, a lot of times.
I mean, they will tell you what the politically correct answer about, well, I think that if a child tries, they should get a trophy. And then when you pull them aside and you say, yeah, but how's it work in life? I mean, somebody going to reward you for that? Well, I mean, I know you're right, but you know.
No, yeah, my son's best coach, he didn't believe in that. Right. Like they say that stuff, and you're like, well, how do you keep repeating this stuff?
But because you get a star, man. You know, when you repeat the Democrat BS, you get a trophy.
Yeah.
You get invited to the next deal or whatever. But this is what I tell everybody, man. This is my rule for life. People ask me all the time, so Kev, what do you think is your best quality? And I'm going to tell you what my best quality is. I mean, I know you'd say, Kevin, there's too many.
Besides your awesome handsomeness.
Right. Besides all that you see before you.
Yes.
But my best quality is, and this is what I tell my sons, I don't give a shit. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that I don't care, about, doing the right thing or whatever, but I care more about pleasing myself than pleasing anybody else. And when you get to that point where you hold yourself to the standard, and, and a part of this came from my mother leaving, dying when I was young, and you lose your mom and you're like, well, why do I got to care about you? Now, after a lot of therapy, I got to quit just throwing people away because that's what I would do. But in finally understanding myself and saying, look, there's good and bad in each of us, right? We know what we are. But what I've learned is this. My bad isn't that damn bad. And most of my good friends, they'll say, yeah, well, you know how Kev is. And then we just move through it, right? If I say something, you say the wrong thing and I go, what did you just say? Because I'm the guy that'll, like, if you tell a joke that I don't like or say the wrong thing about like my grandmother or something, I'm going to be the first guy doing it. And my friends will go, hey, ask Kev, because they know I'm going to be a split second, asking you about it. But they overlook it. The same way I got a buddy that smokes weed. I don't smoke weed, but I know that's what he does. And when he smokes weed, I'm like, man, why you got to smoke that skunk stuff? Why you want around to smell like a funky fat homeless man, But we get past it because he has so many other good qualities. And what I've learned through all of that is I don't give a shit what you think about me. Now, do I want you to be friends? Yeah. But I'm not so caught up in it that you have to be my friend. Right. And when you learn how to do that and mean it, then your life changes dramatically because now it's you picking, and you'll meet people that are identically the same. They'll go, Kevin has this quality. I don't like it, but that's okay. That's my boy.
It is a little bit of devil may care. It's a little bit lonely because you can lose friends and family after you've made the transition. It's not lonely. I've had to. As I made this transition I lost a lot of folks who were close to me. They weren't really that close.
I was going to say, they did you a favor.
I had a shift.
Yeah.
And so I shifted to more authentic friends.
Okay, so which would you rather have?
I believe me, I'd rather have the authentic friends.
Let me tell you, here's how I measure my friends. When I call, will you pick up? Will you bail me out of jail? Will you fight for me or with me? Mm-hmm. That's it. If you and I are boys and you call me up, Kev, it's going down. Where we at? Give me the coordinates. I'm there. I don't need to understand what the fight's about, right?
Right.
That's a friend. When I met my wife, I said, just out of curiosity, I kill somebody. What do we do? I said, what's your next question? What's your question to me? Where do we put the body? I go, bingo.
Okay. All right.
I swear to God. True story. I said.
Okay, he's speaking in metaphor here, folks.
This is metaphorically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, it was these little tests that you go, okay, see, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
So they did you a favor. And what I tell, this is a problem with the McCains and I want to reach across the aisle. I'm not reaching across the aisle. It isn't because I'm dogmatic and I know I don't like people that molest kids. I don't have to
reach across the aisle.
Across the aisle to understand the mind. No, I don't need to reach across the aisle.
Yeah, and I don't engage crazy either. And that's a lot of what reaching across the aisle is. If someone says, I want to burn down your house, which is what they've just done with this bill they just passed.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to burn down the house. I want to burn down the house. No. I want to play with gasoline and matches in the garage. And then I say, that's going to burn down the house. I go, no, it won't. It's just going to it'll be warm. It'll be toasty. It'll be, you could warm your hands by the fire. You're going to burn down the house. There's no room for compromise on that.
Right.
And that's exactly what's going on. I'm sick of compromising. I don't mind compromising on an issue that's good for America. What I won't compromise on is myself to get there. And that's what's going on.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about is at some point, you got to know who you are and what you stand for. And you got to say, look, I may not be the Mr. Perfect in all of this, but I know who I am and what this will do. And here's what's interesting about conservatism is we will do this at our own peril. We will make decisions that we go, this isn't good for me or my business, but it's good for it's for the greater good, and mean it. And you're okay with it. I'm okay if you want to raise my taxes for the right reason. Okay, but I'm not going to want you to raise my taxes because you want to study the mating habits of Chinese prostitutes.
Right.
I'm not going to let you take my money for
the
that.
Racial equity of the saguaro forest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like what?
I didn't realize that they were gender based, but of course, yeah, we got, and even if they're not, we still got to study it, right? Because somebody posed the question.
Yeah.
That's the nonsense. So we got CRT, we got all these gender studies. We got women's studies. We got ethnic studies, race studies. Religious studies, and all for what? All be in a country that, for the go to your nearest Safeway and see, are we beefing? When I see somebody of a different color or a different gender or whatever, nobody's doing anything.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know what your community's like, because
my community.
Well, I mean, you've been raised as a Texas ranch guy, for God's sake. You're not from Detroit. Are your personal circles of friends more one color or the other?
No, man. So, when I grew up in Brady, the little town I grew up in, it was mostly white. But, my friends, I still communicate with all of them, but it was a predominantly white town, white, Hispanic, and black. And it was probably, say, 50% white, 30% Hispanic, 35% Hispanic, and 15% black, something like that. So I had more white friends, but my black friends, we really were just all friends. We played sports together, etc. You get to college. I went to SMU. It was in Dallas, a lot of blacks, but the college wasn't a lot of blacks. So my college friends are a lot of athletes, so I had a lot of black friends there, but a lot of white kids too, more whites than blacks. I've lived in decent neighborhoods. I didn't live in the hood after I got a certain age. I lived in my neighbors were mostly white. The jobs that I worked were high tech. It was Indians and other Asians and whites mostly, because there's not a lot of blacks in high tech. I got in high tech sales. There's probably, in my entire career, 5 maybe blacks in the entire ecosystem.
Industry, yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm around whites mostly, but it didn't matter. But what's interesting is I could go to the hood and I would go play some dominoes with little hood rats right on the porch, because I grew up that way.
So when you're around African Americans,
I don't use that term, but
okay,
yeah.
When you're around blacks, do they say to you,
They say, "What's up, my nigga?"
do you get the comments about, like, my whitest black friend, or Oreo cracker, coconut, or any of that stuff?
No.
Or Uncle Tom? Do you get the Uncle Tom thing thrown at you?
No, I get that from people that don't know me. They do that stuff.
Do you have family members that are hardcore Democrats?
Most of them.
Yeah. And how does that go down with them?
So what's the interesting dynamic?
Do they all know you're a crazy right winger?
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that is when they need money, who do they call? Right, the crazy right winger. And what's
I was going to ask you the nature of your engagement with them. Are they getting converted by you, or are they just entrenched in leftism?
No, they get converted.
I'm finding that also.
Yeah.
Just keep making.
You're converting my family too.
Yeah, I am.
Jeez. You're awesome.
Yeah, just the slow, good argument, not being hostile, and they have no game. I find liberals have no game anymore.
Well,
they've been repeating it so long.
But let me ask
they don't even know anything.
You're talking about your family, right? Or just people in general?
Just people in general. But as I encounter leftism, they don't even know why they.
Of course not.
So, for instance, they have abortion beliefs, but they don't know anything about abortion. Yeah. They just have a belief that someone's told them is pro-woman, but they don't have any of the underlying, so they can't even have a salient argument about it with you.
Yeah.
So when you start that, and I've found to be very, very gentle in my conversation with them, and just kind of nudge and ask questions. And I find out usually in 3 questions, people don't know what they're talking about. They got a bunch of beliefs they learned off CNN, and that when you talk facts with them, just really easy with them, and you don't shotgun them. The next time I see them at the next holiday, they're not as left.
So my style is a little different. So what happens is, most of my family are Democrats, and a lot of them are pastors, believe it or not, which is really irks. It's like, how can you be a pastor and be a Democrat? But we'll be at a family gathering, and my thing is I'm very boisterous. So
no,
yeah, I know it's hard to believe. Because here I've been such a wallflower. But I go in and something's going on and something comes up and I go, yeah, hey, oh, that turkey, how much that turkey cost? That's a Biden turkey right there. You get half the turkey at 3 times the price. I'll be like that. And then people, oh, Kevin, there you go with going with politics. That's just a fact. She's complaining about the price of the turkey. So I'm telling you, if that was a Trump turkey, it would be 4 times bigger and you would have paid half for it, right? I'm doing that.
Right.
And so you can see people are like, boy, he's not, Kevin doesn't back down. He's in the den and he states what he says. Now there's 2 things at play when I do that, and maybe you experience this. One is my family knows family does not get a pass when it comes to getting your ass kicked. Okay, you get mad at me, I will tell you let's go outside and I'll kick your ass. That's number one. And number two, I'm one of the smartest people in the family, and they know that. Anytime my family's like, well, what do we do for a business? Call Kevin. Call Kevin. So how can you say he's one of the smartest guys we know? He comes.
He's our go-to guy.
He's our go-to guy
And
politically.
he's wrong about everything.
But he's wrong about this, right?
Right.
So they have that, and then they know the power of my conviction, because they know if I'm so wrong, I wouldn't be so convicted about being wrong.
Yeah, well, I get to, like, anybody goes to say anything. Like, most of my family, I was super conservative. But when I'm around folks that know me that are left, they go, oh, yeah, no, I'm not getting into it with Greg.
But
They go,
that happens.
Nope, not
that
getting into
happens
it
a
with him.
lot. Where, and here's the one that gets me is they'll say, "Well, Kevin, don't talk to him because he's a Democrat." And I go, "So what?" And I immediately go and engage. "I heard you're a Democrat. Why would you do that?" And I don't get upset. I'm like, "Why?" Just out of curiosity. Should you vote for Biden? And I go, you do know 20% of Democrats said before the election said that Biden suffered from brain damage. Did you believe that? Or, no, that wasn't true, whatever. And I go, you have seen him shaking hands.
What do you think now?
Yeah. So I will engage you. Don't tell me don't talk to them. Are you kidding? That's how we got into this mess.
Right.
I'm going to go engage you. I'm going to make you have to come to a realization of, well, maybe I was wrong about that. It's like when Vinny is asking the guy about them grits. You sure about them grits? When 20 minutes. Well, how do you know it was those same boys? So I was cooking grits. He goes, how long does it take your grits? You cook your grits in 5 minutes? Whoa. Yeah. So that's what I do. I make you have that my cousin Vinny moment that goes, what I thought was right suddenly isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying to win. When you're trying to go and win, when I go back to Justice Thomas saying you can synthesize it quickly, I'm going to find out what you say, and I'm going to hit you with something so between the eyes that you go, oh, you're right. Like when Matt Walsh is asking the guy about a woman. He's like, what about a woman? He's like, well, you can't speak on women's issues because you're not a woman. And Matt goes, I don't have to be a woman to speak on a woman's issues or to know what a woman is. And he goes, yeah, you do. And he goes, do you know what a cat is?
Right.
Did you see that video?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking
And
about.
the guy literally walked off.
Right.
That's why I love Matt Walsh, because we think alike. He knows how to get you to go, oh.
Cut to the chase.
Yeah. And that guy had to leave and he can act like he won the bet. I'm just going to walk away. No, Matt made you have to understand he's right and you're wrong.
Right.
And that's winning the battle. So I don't let micro battles happen around me that I won't get. If you're at I've heard people in the bank line waiting. We were at the grocery store. You say the wrong thing, I'm in your face talking.
Oh yeah, I've driven everyone crazy. I think I ended up getting a divorce over it. I drove everyone crazy. I was like, well, why would you say that? I mean, it all came down there to Trump presidency and did it. I was like, well, no, I'm not going to not say that. No, I'm not going to. I'm
Good
not
for
going to
you,
be
man.
quiet. I know I drove the company crazy because I said I'm not backing off one iota. We did this shirt about the Chinese communist knockoffs of our knives. Did you hear about the shirt? There's this T-shirt gate. I had this Chinese guy in a Chairman Mao top, and he has a copy of one of my knives because they copy my stuff. And he's leaning forward, and it's got a little thing that says, "You want Chaitorian?" And the name's the Praetorian. I'm called it the Chaitorian, right? And you want Chaitorian? And he's got kind of big, a little bit slightly big teeth. And then behind him is Xi Jinping, like leaned over like this. And you don't see, it's real subtle like, but Xi Jinping's pants are down around his ankles. and he's holding a bucket, and the bucket says PLA on the front. And the Chinese guy who's holding the knife forward is dropping $1 in the bucket. He says, "You want Chaitorian?" And the message was, the communist ruling class is fucking over the working class who's stealing from America and giving the money to the military.
Yeah.
It was like, and then it says, don't buy Chi-Com knives. Don't buy Chinese communist knives.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just about got kicked out of the show. I broke the damn internet. The knife world all hated my guts. My employees all got scared. I was torpedoing the company.
Oh, you can't torpedo this company.
And the thing is, it's the truth. And what people were mad at the most is the 2 teeth on the Chinese guy, and that he was in stereotypical attire, and that I gave him an accent in the language. And I said, if I got rid of the stereotypical attire and I made the teeth normal,
it loses its message.
it's not even a cartoon anymore.
It loses the message.
So I know it was a little edgy. I thought it was slightly insensitive. The kids drew it up in the art department. I was like, yeah, let's rip it, man. That's totally the message. Put Xi Jinping behind fucking him. And they were like, really, boss? I was like, yeah. Nobody got mad about that. Nobody.
The accent.
No, they were like, a guy spent 45 minutes on the phone chewing me out that I had given him a Chinese accent. It was demeaning to him, and the teeth and the accent, because he was Jewish, and he said Hitler did it with a big nose in the cartoons in World War II.
Well, it's funny you bring it up. So I do the comedy and I do the accents. So I lived in China, so I'll do well, hi, and or if it's a Mexican, I'll do it's Hispanic Latino accent, whatever. And people are like, today you're not supposed to do that. I do it. The reason we call it the Unapologetically American Comedy Tour is I'm not backing down. It may offend your sensibilities. You know what? Fuck you. I'm not backing down. This is the way I grew up. White boys would come to me, what's up, my Negro? Whatever. They would do things in the ethnic. And I would, hey, well, how are you today, buddy? I do white boy, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you do. That's what makes it funny. Because you know why? We all knew we were all Americans. But we would rank on our little Chinese dude, the Audis, that was our only little Asian family. He's Japanese. We'd rank on him, and he loved it. The Mexicans, man, we were, hey, what's up, ese? Canale. We would just, and we did it every single day because we cared about each other, man. And here's the thing. The more you rank on somebody around me, the more I know you like them.
Right.
If you're just like, oh, yeah, well, hey, meet so-and-so and you meet I'm going, okay, they're not tight. But when they're like, yeah, man, look at him over there with that big old head, I know, okay, that's your boy.
Right.
So that's me. And I'm not changing. The world's changing. You were talking about, this is all evolving. It is. It can evolve. I'll evolve with some of it in a normal way that an old man evolves. But I'm not changing my core. Because as I said, my biggest advice to you and your listeners is know who the hell you are and be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say down is up and up is down.
Right.
And that's what's crazy. That's what's going on around the country right now. Well, if somebody wants to support your cause a little bit, do you have something set up that they can help you out? Or
they go to the KevinJacksonNetwork.com. It's a big, beautiful site, and Mexico paid for it. It's an amazing website. And they can find out about my podcast. They can find out about my video work. They can find out about my movie, Bleeding Blue, my movie site, The Flick Fest, my comedy tour, No Whites Allowed, that's coming in the spring. Everything we do, centralized there. If they want to fund anything, obviously, then when they click on whatever they want, it's all there. And we do a ton of philanthropic work. I have a 501c3 that we just sent some couple of kids up to DC to go hang out with the Hillsdale guys because we have a feeder to Hillsdale College. We pound for pound, I'll just be honest, we are the most effective group in the country, bar none. So I'm proud of the work that we do. And if you like snarky, sarcastic stuff, read my blog. You like you like my style on the radio, watch my videos. You watch my movies, they are amazing. So, and the Flick Fest has probably some of the best entertainment that people will never see anywhere else. So,
and how long you been doing stand-up for?
Man, I did stand-up the first time in New York, at the same place Chris Rock got spotted, and I killed. And I was doing comedy off and on for years, just doing some open mics and things like that, because I never wanted to hit the road. It was just, my friends were comedians. I opened for Victoria Jackson, Joe Piscopo, those guys. Knew a lot of the old school Saturday Night Live crowd from when I'd go up in New York and do a set here and there, but it was always sporadic. But in 2006, I did my own tour, the Reparations Comedy Tour, and I had 4 white guys that were on tour with me. And the joke of it was they were working for me and paying their reparations, and it was a really funny deal. But we did that tour, and then I would do more open nights, hone material. And then we started this tour again. So technically, I've been doing comedy for 3 decades, but not all the time. Now Tim Wilkins, he's on tour with me. Tim opened for Saget the night before he died. So Tim was on. In fact, Saget sent a shout out to him. Tim's open for Dennis Miller, Kathleen Madigan, he tours a lot. Brad Stein is known as God's comic. And Brad has done a lot of churches. I mean, he's been in front of millions of people. One of the most talented comics you'll ever hear. 3 very different
But all clean.
all clean.
Yeah.
And 3 very different styles. My style is Chappelle-esque. Tim's is more typical stand-up. Brad's is almost like a Robin Williams meets Sam Kinison.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's 3 very different styles. And then we do a Barstool at the end where we just take questions from the audience and riff and have a good time. That to me is the most fun because you don't know what they're going to ask you. So
You guys doing a show here in Phoenix?
we did one March 31st, sold it out, and now they
Where
want-
was that at?
At the venue 8600 over in Scottsdale.
Okay.
But they want us to do another show, so we're bringing it back sometime in the spring. It'll come back here.
Well, we should have you come in and do a little promo for the show, maybe.
Oh, we'd love to, man.
yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got on stage first time about 5 years ago.
Did you?
And totally had a blast, and it was great. And my goal was to drop the N-bomb in my first show because I grew up wearing out Richard Pryor records we were talking about before
Yeah,
we
sure.
started. I mean, I wore them out listening to them. And youngsters don't know what that is, but there's a little arm with a needle that
Right.
drags in the record, and you could wear out a record. I remember wearing out Richard Pryor, and then Eddie Murphy came along, and I remember just wearing those 2 out. They were edgy, and I remember my dad, who is nearly an opaque white man, I never heard him laugh in my entire life like I heard him laugh to those 2 guys.
Oh, I'll tell you who else you probably would like if you would like Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney is one of the funniest dudes on the planet. Racial humor in your face. He's an ethnocentric black racist that will have you in stitches. and he's crazy. He by the way, Paul wrote for Richard Pryor. He
Okay.
wrote his jokes. So Paul you would really like. Interesting guy. And there's a more modern comedian. He passed away, man. Patrice O'Neal. Patrice O'Neal is probably, you're going to think I'm sacrilegious here. Patrice O'Neal may be the best comedian I've ever heard. He is so natural. His observations are off the chain. And Patrice O'Neal could work an audience naturally as good as really anybody. He was as good as Don Rickles.
Oh, Rickles was the crowd worker of all time, wasn't he?
Rickles, and I look, I'm a guy that goes back to the old Jews and the Henny Youngmans and the
Oh yeah, the Borscht Belt guys.
all those, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then and of course through the Pryor thing and then the Eddie Murphy and all that. But my style is Chappelle-esque because I do a lot of racial humor and it makes you think. In fact, when I did a separate event here for Goldwater, and I came off. I mean, it was me and DeSantis. DeSantis spoke, and then I came off stage, and the people were just cracking up. If you ever hear anybody say, they'll say, I couldn't even hear Kevin because people were laughing, and we were down at our table just, trying to get oxygen. But when I came off stage,
You talking about like last week?
no, I did it a year ago.
Okay.
Goldwater. So I came off stage and people rushed up. Oh my God, who are you? And 2 people said, "You're funnier than Dave Chappelle." And I went, now that's a compliment.
Yeah.
That's a
Because
compliment.
he's a goat.
But you wait till you hear what I do.
Okay.
So it's that I do that kind of humor that you think you see it coming, and then it comes up behind the head and hits you. And I pride myself on writing that kind of humor because it's political, but it's pop culture at the same time. And the closest style is Dave. And by the way, Patrice O'Neal is the funniest natural comic. Dave trained himself at Duke Ellington to be a good comic. And Dave, the way we think is the same. And he's probably my second favorite comedian next to Patrice O'Neal.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Then you get into Richard and Mooney. Mooney's up there, man. Mooney's a funny dude.
Paul Mooney, right?
Paul Mooney.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard him before.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
And so
Chappelle's the first guy to really do this total narrative arc routine where the show's connected front to back.
He's done that now in his last few shows, but
Yeah.
early on. But what Chappelle would do, and even like going back, say 5 shows, he'll say, he did a show. He said, I met Sylvester Stallone 4 times, and then that'll be the beginning. Then he'll tell something, and he'll tell some jokes, and he'll go, the first time I met Sly, and then he'll tell something, and it ties into that piece. Then he'll go tell some more stuff. Then he'll go, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, the second time.
Yeah.
So they call them bounce backs.
Yep.
His bounce backs are cleverly placed. Now, other people would do something like, yeah, man, so I had this dog once, and they'll set up the dog, and then they'll use the bounce back to the dog, 5 or 6 times, but they'll set it up. And that's still good comedy too.
Yeah.
So when you learn how people work and sort of the audience, I do a lot of racial humor, especially racially uncomfortable humor. I usually work a crowd.
That's my favorite. That
Trust
is
me,
my favorite.
it's so much fun, and I'll even
You
tell
have to
them.
watch white people squirm too, huh?
I even tell them, I go, right now, there's a few of you going, "Ooh, I don't know." I get into your mind and I tell you, but then I start coming at you from different angles, and it's a fun show.
Pretty cool. Well, listen, thanks for coming in. Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we jump off?
I don't need to plug anything, man. I hate doing that. I really do. But here's the thing: the KevinJacksonNetwork.com. Go
Okay.
there, and everything's there. And I communicate. Somebody writes to me, I write you back.
Okay.
I've got 3 best-selling books, a lot of TV products. I'm about to do something really cool here in Arizona. Me and Layman are building this new network of stuff that's going to be pretty hot. Well, I'll talk to you about it. It's pretty cool. When that comes to
I
fruition,
like him a lot.
yeah, I'll come back. And yeah, Jim's amazing.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy. So that's where everybody can reach me, find out what we're doing, go to my calendar where I'm speaking, things like that. But no, man, but I want to really say this to end the show. Very impressed, man. I mean, with you as a person. I mean, we've met twice now, and amazing business. And you really are somebody to be admired. And
Well,
and I
thank
hope
you. I
more
appreciate
people.
that.
I really hope more people get to know you closer and really see what you're doing here, because this is a jewel inside of Arizona for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. It's a lot of hard work to get it here, but I appreciate you saying so.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you being here. All right, sports fans, that's the show. Thanks for joining us. Not on the typical lane, not in the typical lane we typically drive in, and very cool. It is wonderful to have people take time out of their life, come in and connect with us and spend a few moments with us. And thank you all for poking in and checking us out. Go over to Spotify, go over to iTunes, go over to Rumble if you want to see the full unedited show, for those of you who are stumbling across this on YouTube. And thanks for your support. See you around.